I want you to consider this for a moment. Every time you make a choice, you're making a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Stay up late watching television instead of preparing for tomorrow. That's a vote. Grab that sugary snack instead of a nutritious alternative. That's another vote. Skip your reading time to scroll through social media. Another vote. And day by day, choice by choice, vote by vote, you're electing the person you will be. You see, the miracle of your future is hiding in your daily routine. Your habits are like the invisible threads that weave the fabric of your life. Some threads are strong, made of discipline, consistency, and purpose. Others are weak, composed of procrastination, excuses, and indulgence. The quality of your life is determined by which threads dominate your tapestry. Let me tell you, success is not something you pursue. What you pursue often eludes you. Success is something you attract by the person you become, and who you become is dictated by your habits, those small decisions you make every single day that shape your character, your capabilities, and ultimately your destiny. Now, I'm not here to tell you that killing your weak habits is easy. It's not. If it were easy, everyone would be living extraordinary lives. But most people are not willing to pay the price. They're not willing to make the sacrifices necessary to achieve greatness. They're comfortable with their excuses, their rationalizations, their justifications for why they can't achieve their dreams. But I know you're different. You're here today because something inside you knows that you're capable of more. You're here because you want to rebuild yourself into someone stronger, more disciplined, more capable of achieving the extraordinary. And that journey begins with identifying and eliminating the weak habits that have been holding you back. Let's talk about the process of transformation. It starts with awareness. You cannot change what you do not acknowledge. Take inventory of your life. What habits do you currently have that are not serving your highest good? Be brutally honest with yourself. The truth might be uncomfortable, but comfort never transformed anyone. Perhaps it's your morning routine, hitting the snooze button 3 times before dragging yourself out of bed, rushing through your morning without intention or purpose. Maybe it's how you manage your finances, spending impulsively on things that provide temporary pleasure but no lasting value. It could be your health habits, choosing convenience over nutrition, inactivity over movement, distraction over rest. Whatever your weak habits are, I want you to write them down. There's power in putting them on paper. It forces you to confront them. It strips them of their power to operate in the shadows of denial and rationalization. Once you've identified your weak habits, the next step is to replace them with strong ones. Nature abhors a vacuum. You cannot simply eliminate a weak habit without replacing it with something better. If you try, the old habit will creep back in when you're not looking. So for every weak habit you identify, decide on a strong habit to take its place. Instead of hitting the snooze button, establish a morning ritual that energizes and centers you. Instead of impulsive spending, create a budget and financial plan that aligns with your long-term goals. Instead of poor health choices, design a sustainable nutrition and movement practice that honors your body. But here's where most people fail. They try to change everything at once. They become overwhelmed, discouraged, and quickly retreat to their old patterns. Don't make this mistake. Start small. Focus on 1 or 2 key habits at a time. Master those before moving on to others. Remember, we're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for progress. Small, consistent improvements compound over time. A mere 1% improvement each day adds up to a 37-fold improvement over the course of a year. That's the power of compounding, and it works in personal development just as it does in finance. Let me share with you what I call the 5 steps to killing a weak habit. First, identify the habit and understand its triggers. What situations, emotions, or environments prompt this behavior? Awareness is the first step to change. Second, create a compelling reason to change. Your why must be powerful enough to pull you through the discomfort of transformation. If your why is strong, the how becomes easier. Third, design your environment for success. Remove temptations and cues that trigger your weak habits. Surround yourself with people, places, and things that support your new direction. Fourth, establish a replacement habit that serves your goals. Remember, nature abhors a vacuum. Fill the space left by your weak habit with something positive and productive. And fifth, be patient and persistent. Habit change is not an event, it's a process. It takes time for new neural pathways to form in the brain. Stay the course even when progress seems slow. Now let me tell you about the importance of discipline in this process. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It's what turns a dream into a plan and a plan into reality. Without discipline, even the most brilliant strategy will fail. I often say that there are 2 types of pain in life, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, the pain of regret weighs tons. Choose your pain wisely. Discipline isn't about being harsh with yourself. It's about loving your future self enough to make the right choices today. It's about understanding that the temporary discomfort of doing what needs to be done pales in comparison to the lasting satisfaction of becoming who you're capable of being. But here's the interesting thing about discipline. It becomes easier with practice. The more you exercise your discipline muscle, the stronger it gets. Soon what once required significant willpower becomes automatic, even enjoyable. That's when transformation truly takes hold. You know, I've had the privilege of meeting thousands of successful people throughout my career, from entrepreneurs to artists, from athletes to philanthropists. And I can tell you this with certainty, none of them achieved greatness by accident. They all made deliberate choices about their habits. They all understood that excellence is not an act but a habit, as Aristotle so wisely noted. They weren't born with more talent or luck than others. They simply made different choices about how to use their time, their energy, their focus. They chose the pain of discipline over the pain of regret. They chose to kill their weak habits before their weak habits killed their dreams. Let's talk about some specific weak habits that might be holding you back and how to replace them with strong ones. The habit of procrastination is a dream killer. You can do it tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. Replace it with the habit of immediate action. When you think of something that needs to be done, do it now, not later. Now, this one shift can transform your productivity and your results. The habit of negative self-talk undermines your confidence and limits your potential. Replace it with the habit of positive affirmations and empowering questions. Instead of asking, why does this always happen to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I'm figuring out how to do this. The habit of comparison steals your joy and distorts your perception of progress. Replace it with the habit of personal benchmarking. Compare yourself only to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Celebrate your own growth, however small it may seem. The habit of reacting emotionally to challenges creates unnecessary stress and poor decisions. Replace it with the habit of responding thoughtfully. Create space between stimulus and response. Take a breath. Consider your options. Choose wisely rather than impulsively. The habit of information overload, constantly consuming news, social media, emails fragments your attention and drains your mental energy. Replace it with the habit of selective consumption. Be intentional about what you allow into your mind. Quality over quantity. Depth over breadth. The habit of saying yes to everything dilutes your focus and prevents excellence. Replace it with the habit of strategic elimination. Say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. Remember, the enemy of the best is often the good. Now let me tell you about a concept that transformed my approach to habit change, identity-based habits. Most people focus on outcome-based habits. They say, I want to lose weight or I want to save money. But lasting change comes from identity-based habits. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. Don't say, I want to lose 20 pounds. Say, I am the kind of person who takes care of my body. Don't say, I want to save more money. Say, I am a disciplined steward of my resources. When you change your identity, your behaviors follow naturally. You no longer have to force yourself to act a certain way. You simply act in alignment with who you believe yourself to be. This shift in perspective is profound. It moves habit change from a place of struggle to a place of authenticity. You're not fighting against your nature, you're expressing your true nature. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. But this transformation requires courage. It requires the courage to let go of who you've been to become who you can be. It requires the courage to face the discomfort of change rather than settle for the familiarity of mediocrity. It requires the courage to disappoint others who may be invested in your old ways of being. I've always said that courage is not the absence of fear, it's the judgment that something else is more important than fear. In this case, that something else is your potential, the person you're capable of becoming when you free yourself from the limitations of weak habits. Now, I want to address something important, the role of failure in this process. As you work to kill your weak habits, you will fail. Let me say that again, you will fail. There will be days when old patterns reassert themselves, when willpower wanes, when circumstances conspire against your best intentions. But here's the key. Failure is an event, not a person. Just because you failed doesn't mean you are a failure. It simply means you're human. The question is not whether you will fail, but how you will respond when you do. Will you use failure as an excuse to give up, or will you use it as feedback to grow? Will you see it as evidence that change is impossible, or will you see it as a necessary part of the learning process? The great achievers in history, the ones who successfully rebuilt themselves by killing their weak habits, didn't avoid failure. They failed more often than most, but they persisted, they learned, they adjusted, and eventually they succeeded. So when you fail and don't beat yourself up. Don't use it as evidence that you can't change. Instead, get curious. What triggered the relapse? What could you do differently next time? How can you set yourself up for greater success going forward? This brings me to another crucial aspect of killing weak habits, the power of accountability. We all have blind spots. We all have moments of weakness. We all need support and encouragement on the journey of transformation. Find someone who believes in your potential and is committed to your growth. Share your goals with them. Report on your progress regularly. Give them permission to call you out when you're making excuses or slipping back into old patterns. Accountability isn't about shame or judgment. It's about loving yourself enough to invite others into your journey. It's about humility, recognizing that none of us can achieve our full potential in isolation. It's about wisdom, understanding that the right kind of support can multiply your chances of success. I often tell the story of two men who were each trying to quit smoking. The first man told no one about his goal. When he faced a craving, he had only his own willpower to rely on. The second man told everyone he knew. He made himself accountable to his family, his friends, his co-workers. When he faced a craving, he had not only his own willpower, but also the expectation and support of his entire community. Which man do you think was more successful? The one who tried to go it alone, or the one who leveraged the power of accountability? The answer is obvious. We are social creatures. We perform better when others are watching, when others are counting on us, when others are celebrating our victories and helping us learn from our defeats. So don't try to kill your weak habits in isolation. Invite others into your journey. Be vulnerable about your struggles. Celebrate your victories together. Learn from each other's experiences. Now let's talk about the role of patience in this process. We live in a world of instant gratification. We want results and we want them now. But habit change doesn't work that way. It takes time for new neural pathways to form in the brain. It takes time for new behaviors to feel natural rather than forced. There's a common myth that it takes 21 days to form a new habit. The reality is more complex. Depending on the habit, the person, and the circumstances, it can take anywhere from 18 to 254 days for a new behavior to become automatic. The average is around 66 days, more than 2 months of consistent practice. So be patient with yourself. Don't expect overnight transformation. Celebrate small victories. Recognize that even when progress seems slow, unseen changes are taking place beneath the surface. The seeds you plant today will bear fruit in due season if you don't give up. And remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. You don't need to execute your new habits flawlessly every time. Research suggests that missing an opportunity to perform a behavior occasionally has no measurable impact on habit formation. It's the overall pattern that matters, not isolated instances of success or failure. This brings me to another important point, the power of tracking. What gets measured gets managed. If you want to kill your weak habits and build strong ones, start tracking your behavior. Use a journal, a spreadsheet, a mobile app, whatever works for you. The method doesn't matter as much as the consistency. Tracking serves multiple purposes. It increases your awareness of your behavior patterns. It provides concrete evidence of your progress over time. It creates a sense of accountability, even if you're only accountable to yourself. And perhaps most importantly, it allows you to celebrate small victories along the way. But don't underestimate the power of celebration in the habit change process. When you acknowledge and celebrate your progress, you release dopamine in the brain, the same neurotransmitter that's released when you experience pleasure. This creates a positive feedback loop that reinforces your new behavior and makes it more likely that you'll repeat it in the future. So track your habits and celebrate your wins, no matter how small they may seem. Did you resist the urge to check social media during your productive time? Celebrate. Did you choose a nutritious meal over fast food? Celebrate. Did you save a small portion of your paycheck instead of spending it all? Celebrate. These celebrations don't need to be elaborate. A simple acknowledgement, I did it, can be powerful. The key is to connect the positive feeling of celebration with the behavior you want to reinforce. Now, I want to talk about the importance of your environment in this process. Your environment often has more influence on your behavior than your willpower. If you're trying to eat healthier, but your kitchen is stocked with junk food, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're trying to be more productive, but your workspace is cluttered and full of distractions, you're fighting an uphill battle. Design your environment to support your desired habits rather than undermine them. Make the behaviors you want easy and the behaviors you don't want difficult. Remove triggers for your weak habits and create cues for your strong ones. For example, if you want to read more, place books in visible locations throughout your home and keep your digital devices out of sight. If you want to exercise in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to save money, set up automatic transfers to your savings account so you don't have to rely on willpower each month. This environmental design approach leverages a fundamental truth about human behavior. We tend to follow the path of least resistance. By making your desired habits the path of least resistance, you harness this tendency rather than fighting against it. Let's also consider the role of identity in this process. As I mentioned earlier, the most powerful way to change your habits is to focus on who you want to become rather than what you want to achieve. But this raises a question: how do you change your identity? Identity change happens gradually through a feedback loop between your behaviors and your beliefs. Your behaviors shape your beliefs about yourself, and your beliefs shape your behaviors. It's a circular process. To change your identity, start by taking small actions that align with the person you want to become. These actions might feel uncomfortable or inauthentic at first because they conflict with your current self-image. That's normal. Keep taking these actions anyway. As you continue to act in ways that align with your desired identity, your self-perception will gradually shift. You'll start to see yourself as the kind of person who engages in these behaviors. And once you see yourself that way, the behaviors will become more natural and automatic. For example, if you want to become a disciplined person, start by taking small, disciplined actions, making your bed each morning, keeping your commitments, arriving on time for appointments. At first, these actions might require conscious effort and feel somewhat forced. But over time, as you continue to take these actions, you'll start to think of yourself as a disciplined person. And once your identity shifts, disciplined behavior will flow naturally from that identity. This is why I often say that motivation follows action, not the other way around. Many people wait to feel motivated before they take action, but that's backwards. Take action first, even when you don't feel like it, and motivation will follow. Action creates momentum, and momentum fuels motivation. Now let's address a common obstacle in the habit change process: the influence of your social circle. Jim Rohn, that's me, is famous for saying, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." This isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a profound truth about human behavior. Your social environment shapes your norms, your expectations, your aspirations. If you're surrounded by people who engage in the very habits you're trying to eliminate, your path will be much more difficult. Their behaviors will continually trigger your old patterns and undermine your new intentions. This doesn't mean you need to abandon your friends and family, but it does mean being intentional about who you spend time with and how you allow them to influence you. Seek out relationships with people who embody the qualities and habits you aspire to develop. Limit time with those who reinforce your weak habits. And remember, influence goes both ways. As you work to kill your weak habits, you become a positive influence on those around you. Your transformation can inspire others to embark on their own journeys of growth and change. Let me share a powerful truth that has guided my own journey. Success leaves clues. Whatever you want to achieve or become, someone has already paved the way. Learn from them. Study their habits, their mindsets, their strategies. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you want to become financially successful, study the habits of wealthy people. If you want to improve your health, study the habits of healthy people. If you want to build a thriving business, study the habits of successful entrepreneurs. This doesn't mean blindly copying others. We each have our own unique circumstances, strengths, and challenges. But by learning from those who have achieved what you aspire to achieve, you can accelerate your progress and avoid common pitfalls. Books, podcasts, courses, mentors, these are all valuable resources for learning success habits. Invest in yourself by investing in these resources. The knowledge and insights you gain will pay dividends for the rest of your life. Now, I want to address an important question. What if you're not sure which habits to cultivate? What if you're unclear about the person you want to become? Start by clarifying your values and goals. What matters most to you? What kind of life do you want to create? What impact do you want to have on the world? Your answers to these questions will guide your habit choices. For example, if family is a core value for you, you might prioritize habits that allow you to be fully present with your loved ones, limiting work hours, creating technology-free zones in your home, establishing family rituals and traditions. If health is a core value, you might focus on habits like regular exercise, nutritious eating, adequate sleep, and stress management. If continuous learning is important to you, you might develop habits around reading, taking courses, seeking out new experiences, and reflecting on what you've learned. The key is alignment. Your habit should align with your values and goals. When they do, motivation comes more easily because you connect your daily actions to what matters most to you. This brings me to another crucial aspect of killing weak habits: understanding the power of keystone habits. These are habits that, when changed, cause positive ripple effects throughout your life. They set off a chain reaction of additional changes without requiring the same level of effort. For example, regular exercise is a keystone habit for many people. When they start exercising consistently, often naturally begin to eat better, sleep better, and feel more energetic and confident. These additional changes weren't directly targeted but emerged as a result of the keystone habit. Other common keystone habits include adequate sleep, daily planning, meditation, and financial tracking. Identifying and focusing on keystone habits can give you more bang for your buck in the transformation process. Now, let's talk about the importance of systems in killing weak habits. Goals are important. They provide duration and motivation. But systems are what produce results. A goal is the outcome you want to achieve. A system is the process that leads to that outcome. Too often we focus solely on goals without designing effective systems to achieve them. We say, I want to lose 20 pounds without establishing a sustainable nutrition and exercise system. We say, I want to write a book without creating a consistent writing practice. The problem with this approach is that once you achieve a goal, the behavior often stops. But when you fall in love with the system, the daily process, you continue the behavior long after the initial goal is achieved. So by all means, set ambitious goals. But then shift your focus to designing and implementing the systems that will move you toward those goals. Fall in love with the process, not just the outcome. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this principle. I once knew a man who set a goal to run a marathon. He trained diligently for months, completed the marathon, and then stopped running altogether. The goal had been achieved, so the behavior ceased. I knew another man who also set a goal to run a marathon, but instead of focusing solely on the race, he focused on becoming a runner. He designed a sustainable running practice that fit into his lifestyle. He joined a running club. He explored different types of runs, trails, tracks, roads. After completing the marathon, he continued running because he had fallen in love with the process. The marathon was simply a milestone on a longer journey. Which approach do you think leads to more lasting change? The goal-focused approach or the system-focused approach? The answer is clear. Systems trump goals when it comes to long-term transformation. Now, I want to address a common misconception about habit change, the idea that it's all about willpower. Willpower is a limited resource. If you rely solely on willpower to kill your weak habits, you'll eventually exhaust it and revert to your old patterns. Instead of relying on willpower, focus on designing your life in a way that reduces the need for willpower. Create an environment that supports your desired habits. Establish routines that automate positive behaviors. Surround yourself with people who reinforce your new identity. This doesn't mean willpower isn't important. It is, especially in the early stages of habit change when new behaviors haven't yet become automatic. But willpower should be your backup system, not your primary strategy. Think of willpower as emergency savings rather than your regular income. You don't want to deplete it on day-to-day expenses. You want to reserve it for unexpected challenges and obstacles. Let me share another powerful strategy for killing weak habits, the use of implementation intentions. These are specific plans that detail when, where, and how you'll perform a particular behavior. They take the form of when situation X arises, I will perform response Y. For example, instead of saying, I'll exercise more, you might say, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m., I'll go to the gym and follow my workout plan. Instead of saying, I'll eat healthier, you might say, when I feel the urge to snack in the afternoon, I'll eat an apple or a handful of nuts. Implementation intentions remove ambiguity and decision fatigue. They convert vague aspirations into concrete action plans. Research shows that people who use implementation intentions are significantly more likely to follow through on their intentions than those who don't. Now, let's talk about the importance of starting small. Many people fail in their habit change efforts because they try to do too much too soon. They decide to completely overhaul their diet, exercise routine, sleep schedule, and work habits all at once. This approach almost always leads to burnout and abandonment of the entire effort. A more effective approach is to start with tiny habits, behaviors that are so small they require minimal motivation and effort. I want to start meditating. Begin with just 1 minute per day. Want to read more? Start with a single page before bed. Want to improve your nutrition? Add 1 vegetable to your daily diet. These tiny behaviors might seem insignificant, but they serve an important purpose. They establish the neural pathways for the habit and build your identity as the kind of person who engages in this behavior. Once the habit is established, you can gradually increase the duration or intensity. Remember, consistency is more important than intensity, especially in the beginning. It's better to meditate for 1 minute every day than for an hour once a week. It's better to read 1 page every day than to read 100 pages once a month. Start small, be consistent, and gradually increase the challenge as the behavior becomes more automatic. This approach is sustainable and leads to lasting change. Now, I want to address a question that might be on your mind. How long does it take to kill a weak habit? The answer depends on several factors: the strength of the habit, your motivation for change, the effectiveness of your strategy, and the support systems you have in place. Some habits can be changed relatively quickly in a matter of weeks. Others may take months or even years to fully transform. The key is to focus on the process rather than the timeline. Trust that if you're consistently taking steps in the right direction, change will happen, even if it's slower than you'd like. And remember, habit change isn't linear. You'll experience setbacks along the way. There will be days when old patterns reassert themselves, when motivation wanes, when progress seems elusive. This doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're human. The path to transformation is rarely a straight line. It's more often a series of ups and downs, forwards and backwards. But as long as the general trend is upward, you're on the right track. Let me share a powerful mindset shift that can help you navigate these ups and downs. Think of habit change as an experiment rather than a test. A test is something you pass or fail. An experiment is something you learn from regardless of the outcome. When you approach habit change as an experiment, every attempt, successful or not, provides valuable data. What worked? What didn't? Why? How can you adjust your approach based on what you've learned? This experimental mindset reduces the emotional charge of setbacks. Instead of thinking, I failed, you think, that's interesting. That approach didn't work as well as I expected. What can I try next? This keeps you engaged in the process rather than giving up when things don't go as planned. Now, I want to talk about the importance of stress management in the habit change process. Stress is one of the most common triggers for relapse into old, weak habits. When we're stressed, our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and self-control, becomes less active. Meanwhile, the areas of the brain associated with habit and impulse become more active. This is why during times of stress, we often revert to our most ingrained habits even when we know they're not serving us well. The chocolate bar, the cigarette, the mindless scrolling, these familiar behaviors provide temporary relief from discomfort, even as they undermine our long-term goals. To successfully kill your weak habits, you need effective strategies for managing stress. These might include meditation, deep breathing, physical exercise, time in nature, creative expression, or connecting with supportive friends and family. The specific strategies aren't as important as having them in place before you need them. Don't wait until you're in the midst of a stressful situation to figure out how to cope. Develop your stress management toolkit now and practice using these tools regularly. Remember, stress isn't just an emotional experience, it's a physiological one. When you're chronically stressed, your body is in a state of fight or flight, with elevated cortisol levels and decreased immune function. This state makes it difficult to think clearly, make wise choices, and exercise self-control. By managing your stress effectively, you create the physiological conditions for successful habit change. You enable your prefrontal cortex to do its job to override automatic responses and make choices aligned with your long-term goals. Now, as we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a few final thoughts on rebuilding yourself by killing your weak habits. First, remember that transformation is a journey, not a destination. There is no finish line, no point at which you can say, I've arrived, I'm done growing. As long as you're alive, you have the opportunity, and I would say the responsibility, to keep evolving, to keep refining your habits, to keep becoming a better version of yourself. Second, be kind to yourself along the way. Self-criticism doesn't motivate lasting change. It often does the opposite. Treat yourself with the same compassion and understanding you would offer to a dear friend who is working to overcome a challenge. Celebrate your progress, learn from your setbacks, and keep moving forward. Third, remember that the purpose of killing weak habits isn't just to eliminate negative behaviors, it's to create space for something better. It's to free up your time, energy, and attention for the things that truly matter: your relationships, your purpose, your growth, your contribution to the world. And finally, understand that this process of rebuilding yourself is one of the most worthwhile endeavors you can undertake. By consciously shaping your habits, you're consciously shaping your destiny. You're taking the reins of your life rather than being carried along by default patterns and societal expectations. This is your life we're talking about, not someone else's, yours. You get to decide how to live it. You get to decide what habits to cultivate and what habits to eliminate. You get to decide who to become. So I ask you, what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to create? What weak habits are holding you back from becoming that person and creating that life? Now is the time to answer these questions. Now is the time to commit to the process of transformation. Now is the time to begin rebuilding yourself by killing your weak habits. Remember, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It's what turns a dream into a plan and a plan into reality. Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. Choose your pain wisely. The journey of transformation won't be easy, but I promise you it will be worth it. Every step you take toward becoming the person you're capable of being is a step toward a more fulfilling, purposeful, and impactful life. So start today, start now. Identify one weak habit to eliminate and one strong habit to cultivate in its place. Take one small step in the right direction, then tomorrow take another, and the day after that, another. Day by day, choice by choice, habit by habit, you'll rebuild yourself into someone stronger, more disciplined, more capable of creating the life you truly want. And when you look back on this journey years from now, you'll be amazed at how far you've come, at who you've become, at what you've accomplished. The miracle of your future is hiding in your daily routine. Your habits are the invisible threads that weave the fabric of your life. Choose wisely which threads you allow to dominate your tapestry. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The real question is, what are you practicing daily? You are not what you want to be. You are not what you hope to be. You are not what you intend to be. You are what you do. Your habits define you. They create your life story one day at a time. So write a story worth telling. Create a life worth living. Become a person worth becoming. It all starts with your habits, those small decisions you make every single day that shape your character, your capabilities, and ultimately your destiny. The choice is yours. The time is now. The person you're capable of becoming is waiting for you to take that first step. I don't keep them waiting any longer.